CV now because I've worked with him for 43 years, so it's time to go. Anyway, I can't follow David. It's a spectacular introduction to it, but I'll give you my views for what they're worth, and I hope it sparks some debate. St George is part of the Berkeley Group. We're a wholly owned subsidiary, and we've welcomed the NPPF. We welcomed the draft, although we felt that, like David, there was quite an outrage that we couldn't see. If you actually read the document, it did try to protect brownfield, countryside and all the rest of it. I think Greg Clark has added some depth to that now and reinforced it, so there's more consensus. We do think that it'll boost housing and employment, although I hope it doesn't boost crinkly tin sheds in seas of car park, my pet hate. But what we've got to do is make sure we do try to deliver some more numbers. David's right that lowest numbers of housing now being produced for more than 100 years. We've got 1.8 million people on housing waiting lists, and we've got to create a society that gives a basic human right of shelter for people. And we've got to make that come about sooner rather than later. And in all of that, we've spent years and years and years building up not just the 1,000 pages of the planning, but the PPGs, the PPSs, the regulations, and everything that goes with it. Those are thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that planners and communities who do not want to see development in their backyard can use to stop development. So we have welcomed the rapid simplification. I think the people that wrote it have done an incredible job. And we've got to try to find a way of speeding things up, and hopefully this will give us that direction. We all know that we've got children now that have to be 37 or more before they appear to be capable of getting their own home. If they want to buy it, and we can't carry on with that. Otherwise, we'll all need to move out into caravans and let the children stay at home, I think. But when you see the scale of submission documents, and the NPPF won't change this overnight, but I'm hoping it will set a culture in train that we can all go through. You need a van to take an outline planning application submission to a local authority these days. Partly that is due to the EIA. And we have to stop being a country that makes it overly complicated. I'm sure France and Germany and everyone else don't go through the pain and the torture of the planning process the way we do. So I'm hoping that this will simplify, it'll make it quicker, it'll make it more consistent in terms of outcomes despite local authorities. I think it gives that underlying framework that we are having to plan for growth, and planning now has to be a positive measure rather than a negative measure. It doesn't create a free-for-all in my view. I think there will be enormous challenges for developers. It does give us a chance to create an opportunity for us to deliver better places as well as more homes and more jobs. We've also welcomed the short transition period for those that have got local plans in place, and it does have immediate effect for those that don't have them. So it is here, it's now.
Started today.
Started today. Yeah. So for any authorities that don't have an updated local plan, i.e. one that's been approved since 2004, the NPPF now takes precedent. We welcome the emphasis given to brownfield sites. I think that's right for our society. And we also welcome the town centre first policy. That's been reinforced in this new publication now. It gives greater clarity over the definition of sustainable development, as David said, and it sets out what those 5 principles are. I have written them out. If you really want to know, I can give them you afterwards. We've been working on those 3 stalls, the social progress, environmental stewardship, and economic growth for many years now, and I've left a brochure at the back about the sort of sustainable communities that we've been creating. And if the AOU wants a study visit to any of them, you're very welcome to come and have a look and challenge us in what we do. But we do have that drive of trying to get the core of the overlapping areas of social progress, environmental stewardship, and that economic growth. It's the core in the middle that's important. It's where the three come together. And I welcome them refining what they've said in the document, because I think that's important. I also think that we ought to reflect on how much housing does make a contribution, as well as creating telephones, Jeffrey, to the economy. Research has shown that if we could achieve, in England, the 250,000 homes that Kate Barker and everyone else believes we need to deliver, that would add up to another 1% of GDP. And in London, the GLA estimate that for every 1,000 people that you house in new dwellings, 230 jobs are created. So it is a great driver for economic stimulus. It won't solve all the problems. We will still be beset with regulation. We'll still have to negotiate planning conditions that take a year to discharge once you've signed a 106, which will still exist even though we've got community infrastructure levies. And I think that there'll still be some uncertain outcomes because of our democratic process. It's inevitable. And also, we will have to wait and see what the government does when it gets faced with an appeal challenge and which way it jumps. But I do think the NPPF will help. I think the Localism Act with the NPPF will create a new culture. I do think that's emerging. I think Greg Clark's done well to bring the NPPF to a position where it's overcome most of the vociferous criticism and converted a battle to a constructive dialogue. And I think that's what we all need to do now. I think we need to stop having the communities over there, the local authorities over there, developers and planners, all in the various corners. But we've got to start trying to do that constructive dialogue so that we can engage and debate what's right for the neighbourhood and how it's going to be paid for. And we need to focus on the kind of places that people need and want. The neighbourhoods have got to have investment in them. We've got to find a way of delivering the finance and make them well managed. And we've got to be able to talk freely and openly to communities about how you do that. We've got to create the facilities, the shops, the parks, the youth clubs, the enterprise. And we've got to focus on how we can work together to deliver that and integrate the new homes into those existing neighbourhoods. We have to accept in rural communities that we can't cover them in aspic. We have to start getting the thriving rural communities to grow again, because otherwise they'll die. We see it locally. I live in Shropshire, so some of the market towns are really suffering. The problems that we've got in the planning system didn't just occur because of the complex policy or the top-down targets. Often there are too few staff, as David said, that the local authorities are facing tremendous challenges, and we've tried to work with local authorities to create dedicated planning officers so that at least we can get it through the system. We've tried to look at PPA agreements, and find a way of resourcing it, because whilst those sites are laying fallow, then the interest's clocking up on the land. We don't want a land bank. We buy the land to build. It costs us a lot of money to spend a lot on a piece of land and then wait to go through the planning process. If we can get through a planning process in under 2 years, we're doing well. And it takes us almost 12 months to discharge the conditions now. So, it's 3 years, that's a lot of interest. So we have to find a better way forward. But councils also need to get the staffing structure right. They need to bring in a clear vision. a good local plan's got to be developed, and the community have got to get behind it. The local authorities have got to find a way of taking their communities with them. And I don't think the local plan process has helped that. I think the local plan process has been very difficult, but we've got to help them with the staffing resource, and they've got to be more robust. They've got to feel confident that they can deliver a mandate for a clear vision, so that they can use this simplification, they can use that, and then we can actually go forward. I think we should give the NPPF a chance. I think we should try to find a constructive dialogue. I think we should focus on how we can make it work. And then I'd leave the government with a challenge that it's got lots and lots and lots of land that it can make available to deliver housing on. But if it continues to process it through OJU, again another lawyer's dream, then it won't come forward in time and at the speed that we need it. So I think we should get them now to go back to Europe and find a way round the OJU process so that they can bring their public sector land forward, perhaps deliver some garden cities on it and give the land to the communities, and also then to tackle the other European legislation which makes the outline applications and our planning process continue to be cumbersome. So I'd say give it a chance.